September in the garden, my little seedlings, and that means it's still time to get something in the ground before it gets too cold in almost any climate. There is still time. So I don't know about you, but it's been a little bit of a weird summer. Not the best weather, some great harvests, but also a lot of plant diseases. So let's kick into it with tips from myself, Jacques, Meg, as well as some exciting new faces for what to plant right now in September. My first pick is one that I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't grown it for a couple seasons, mostly because I didn't really know what to do with it in the kitchen. And back in my farmer's box days, I got too much of it in my CSA boxes and I got a little fatigued. But this year, I'm bringing it back and I'm talking about kohlrabi. By the way, every single pick in our video is going to be a seed that we actually stock and sell either online or at 5,000 plus stores around the country through Botanical Interests, our seed brand, or the Epic Gardening brand, which is a slimmed down line of about 40 varieties that are great for beginners. And there's a link down in the description that you can get a list of every single one that we all recommend in this video. But kohlrabi, I think it's underrated these days. I hated on it for a very long time. It's Brassica oleracea, but it is a variety, or it's a cultivar. It's Gongliodes. Don't know if I got that right. Sounds a little weird. And also it looks a little bit weird. It's a swollen stem. That's the part of the Brassica oleracea species that has been selected for with kohlrabi. So it's this sort of swollen stem at the bottom. That's really what you're growing it for. You're chopping it up and you're roasting it, but it's grown much like any other brassica crop. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, all of those, even Brussels sprouts. You wanna start it into a period of cooling weather, like at other brassicas, it loves that. And you just kind of let it go. It even handles a little bit of frost. So you may wanna put a cover over it, but that can even sweeten up that flavor a little bit. I know a lot of people don't know what to do with kohlrabi. You can eat it straight up out of the garden, but to me, it feels like cutting it into chunks or even thin slices and roasting it starts to bring out a little bit more of that flavor.
I've got to admit that September is one of my least favorite months, not just in general, but in the garden because it's hot, it's sticky, disease is really creeping up on the garden, but I know that in about 3 months, it's going to be very crispy, very cool, and there will probably be little tickles of frost, at least here in my garden. Some of you guys might be buried in snow, but if you are in a mild climate, you would be absolutely foolish to not plant your very own carrots. And just to be entirely clear, I'm talking about anyone zone 7 and up. You could definitely plant carrots in your garden right now. They will have plenty of time to mature, and that cooler weather is going to make them absolutely phenomenal. The colder it gets, the sweeter your carrot gets because it is a natural defense mechanism to resist frost damage. Now the two varieties I'm picking today are Danvers 126, which is fantastic for clay soils or in-ground use because it's resistant to cracking and splitting and can also penetrate clay soils with no problem. But for raised beds, which is my preferred method, I'm going to be planting these Mokum carrots. Now the reason why I like raised beds is that it's easier to maintain the water in them, and more importantly, they have gopher netting so the gophers don't steal all my carrots. Now let me show you my strategies for getting really good carrot germination. The first thing I like to do is put a fresh layer of soil in the area I'm planting carrots. This fresh soil will be nice and loose and make it very easy for those carrots to sink in and also be well watered at the start. Once you have that fresh soil down, immediately get it nice and wet. You want the soil to basically be as wet as you could possibly get it. Next, we're chopping the soil. This is going to create a little furrow where we're gonna sprinkle our seeds in. Now grab your carrot packet, give it a little pinch. That's gonna create a channel for the seed. And now we're gonna tap our hand here and watch all the carrots sprinkle perfectly into this little furrow. And then you wanna just barely cover those carrots up with a little bit more of that fresh soil, making sure it's nothing too chunky that will actually make it hard for that carrot to come up. And then water again. The thing that's hard about growing carrots is that if they dry out for a single day in the 2 weeks it takes for them to germinate, then those carrots are not gonna ever grow. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to just cover it in a little bit of straw mulch, just enough to keep the moisture in, but not enough to actually fully bury the entire area. And then some more water. Another thing that I've done in the past is put like frost fabric, cardboard, a piece of wood, and then after like 7 to 10 days, take it off so that your carrots can get some sunlight, but that something on top will keep the moisture locked in and improve your chances of getting those sweet, delicious carrots come wintertime.
Hello from Zone 7B, and my first pick is this beautiful broccoli disticho. Disticho? I don't know how to say it, but this is a gorgeous variety of broccoli. I have 3 little kids, and broccoli is one of the things that they will eat no matter what. So I actually try to grow enough to replace the grocery store, and then I end up blanching it and freezing it so that we can have access to it year round. I have some tips for broccoli. This germinates really well. I start everything inside because I have this beautiful greenhouse that I'm in, and it's really hot right now with a lot of bugs in our zone. Everything's a little funky in September. We are just going to get into fall, but it's such a great time to get your fall sowings in that are going to be able to either overwinter or be harvested within the next 90-ish days. What we're trying to achieve here is getting your seeds started so that they're strong enough to be transplanted outside. I have a set here I started a couple weeks ago, but I'm succession sowing these. So we also are going to start some today so that I've got a continuous yield coming through, and that all starts by sowing these here in my greenhouse. Now, the reason September is so crucial is that the sunlight is starting to wane, so we really want to capture it while it's here to get these seeds going. And then as soon as they start coming into themselves, that sunlight's going to drop down and those cool temps are going to hit, which is what these plants really like. My next two picks will reflect that as well, but we want to capture the heat and the sunlight now to get all of our seedlings really strong and healthy. And then as it cools down, it'll really nurture the plant in the way that they like it.
Hey there, it's Gray, your friendly neighborhood gardener. And I'm in the state of Texas, North Texas to be specific. And let's face it, it's hot. Yeah, even though it's September, it's still ridiculously hot. And that's why every single plant that I'm going to grow this season is going to have some magnitude of either heat or drought tolerance. Because, let's face it, if you live in Texas, you know there have been Christmases of us walking around in shorts before. But I'm not going to let that stifle my ability to grow some leafy greens. And neither should you. And so now, considering our extended growing season that we have out here in North Texas, one of my first picks for my September garden is definitely going to be one that I try to grow year round. At least 9 months out of the year. And that's going to be my red leaf amaranth. I truly do love this plant because one, it tastes good, and I'm a firm believer in growing what you like to eat. And then second, it's a great way when you have like this sea of green growing in your garden. It's a nice way to break up the monotony and have a little bit of a pop of red in there. So we've established that it's heat and drought tolerant. It actually does the best between about 65 to 75 degrees. But pretty sure you're wondering, well, what does it taste like? Well, one, I'm going to tell you, it tastes good. This is one of those leafy greens that's truly kind of diverse. Here's the best part. Now, we've talked about how it tastes. We've talked about its heat and drought tolerance. Well, guess what? Super easy to grow. You can direct sow it. You can grow indoors. You can grow hydroponically, which I've done multiple times because a lot of times I'll take my hydroponic grow kits and I'll use them sometimes as quick seed starters. It germinates in about 4 to 5 days or so. Just be sure to space out your seeds about 6 inches or so you're giving the plant enough room to establish itself, and then plus you have adequate airflow.
It's September in Florida. It's gonna start to cool down soon. I think, maybe. Okay, you probably think I've completely lost it. The summer heat has finally broken me because by planting dill, I am taking the first step in controlling tomato hornworm this fall. The hornworm is a big fat green caterpillar that you will find on your tomatoes, your peppers, and other solanaceous plants. Just a few of these big chewing insects can decimate your tomato patch. They do real damage. The hornworm has a natural enemy in the braconid wasp. This is a super tiny wasp that lays its eggs in the back of the caterpillar's body and parasitizes and kills it. Now, I'm also planting cukes this September, so I decided dill would be the perfect way to get some great dill pickles going and attract the braconid wasp because I'm planning for a big fall crop of tomatoes, and I know those hornworms are just around the corner. Starting dill seeds is easy. You are just going to press those little seeds into the soil. They're going to be lightly covered, keep them consistently watered, and they're going to emerge in just a few weeks. Now, this is one that's commonly succession planted because it does come quickly and then it's going to fade quickly. So if you want a continuous supply over the fall, we're going to maybe do 2, possibly 3 successions, depending on how many pickles you're planning to make or how many dill recipes you've got in mind. And I'm really after dill as a companion plant, so I'm gonna make sure that I interplant them around my tomato plants.
This leafy green is kind of like lettuce's cooler, spicier, sassier cousin, kind of like comparing Kevin to Eric. Arugula is a cool season crop with this mustardy, peppery, zippy flavor. It is delicious. And actually, it's not even related to lettuce. It's in the brassica family, so it's related to broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, things like that. But with those, you have to wait months to harvest them. Arugula, you can go from seed to salad in as little as 20 days. So if you love some instant gratification in the garden like I do, you will love arugula. Arugula does not enjoy the heat, so September is the perfect time to get them in the ground here in Zone 8A because it will be finally cooling off here. It has been a very long, hot summer here. But since we can kind of get some heat waves, some heat spikes in September, I do like to sow my arugula under some things that'll kind of shade it out throughout the rest of the fall, like my tomato plants or my pepper plants. I like to just chaos garden my arugula and just scatter the seeds under there, rake my hands through the soil a bit, water them in well, and then wait for them to pop up. And then as they are popping up, I do want to go back and thin them out every 4 to 6 inches or so because arugula can really like to spread out quite a bit. I like to harvest my arugula pretty early and often to keep it producing, and I always harvest it from the outer leaves first. That way the inner leaves can keep growing. And if you're someone that loves that peppery, zingy taste, you'll want to let the leaves get a little large, a little bit older, because the older they are, the more peppery their taste is going to be. If you're someone that wants a more mild arugula, harvest them as baby greens, and they would be perfect.
My summer garden is beginning to fade, but I'm not done yet. September can be a great time to start cover crops, green manure crops that will benefit the soil for next year's summer garden. And high on the list of those plants is common buckwheat. This fast-growing plant will be ready to turn into the soil in just about 6 or 7 weeks. I can lightly broadcast it across the soil. And normally we would plant these seeds about 1/2 inch deep. Well, what I do to prepare the soil is instead cover these seeds with about 1/2 inch of compost. In just a few days, in the warmth of the sun and the warmth of the soil, these seeds will begin germinating. And right before or right after my average first frost date, these plants will be big enough to turn into the soil. They'll break down quickly, and along with the compost, this is an ideal way to amend your bare garden beds for next year.
As every year passes in the garden, I come to appreciate flowers more and more. They have so many different textures, colors, patterns, and they just bring in so much life to the garden. But the summer blooms are quite easy. You have a very wide window of time where you could start them and sow them, like these wonderful zinnias. But there is a little class of flowers that in mild climates will do absolutely stupendously if you get the timing right, and that timing is right now. I want to talk about 3 different types of flowers, but on one of them, I'll show you exactly how to sow it because it can be a little tricky. Now, the first one I wanted to talk about is calendula. Yes, you heard me right. The flower that can be grown any time of year, basically, but what I discovered this past winter is that if you plant it right now in the fall, let it grow through the winter, you're gonna get calendula bushes at least 3 to 5 feet across. I'm talking massive bushes of calendulas with well over 100 blooms. That's what I discovered this year. By growing it over the winter, that little bit of cold really sets them off. Now the next one might surprise you as well, and that is the sweet pea. Sweet peas are actually something that need a little bit of cold weather to really get them going. And here in my zone, where it really gets hot pretty quick in spring, starting them now is going to guarantee I get crazy profuse blooms. I'm also going to get taller sweet pea plants, and they're going to have more blooms than if I were to start them in the springtime, like most of you that are in colder zones would choose to do. Now, the last one is the snapdragon, and this one is actually well known for blooming extra heavy in the coldest of weather. So for us, we really want to get this going now. And the cool thing about snapdragons is they come in a variety of sizes. You can get tall ones, short ones, and they're really good for filling out different places in your bed. The key to successfully growing snapdragons from seed is to start off with a very nicely wet soil. You could see how dark this one is here because I just watered it and it's nice and dark. The second and most important by far is that you want to try to put more seeds than you think, because basically if one of them fails, you have plenty of backups. Now, the thing about snapdragons that you really ought to know is that they need light to germinate. So when you put them on top of something like a seed cell or directly in the garden, all you want to really do is go through and press down with your fingers. You were just trying to get really good contact with that soil so that it nestles in a little bit, but we don't want to bury it. If we bury it and provide too much darkness, that seed will not germinate. Now, you can get away with a little sprinkling of soil on top, or what I prefer to do is put a little layer of vermiculite over the surface that keeps water in and also allows light to pass through, which should lead to really wonderful snapdragon blooms. Let me show you what they look like after just 3 weeks after putting them in a cell. And just like that, 3 weeks later, this is what you should see in your cells. You should see a nice carpet of beautiful snapdragon seedlings. At this point, you could thin them down, prick them out, plant them elsewhere, but that is all it takes. A little bit of vermiculite, surface sowing, and you should get some beautiful snapdragons.
My next pick for Zone 7 in September are Brussels sprouts. We really have a good trick over here for Brussels, and that is that you want to sow them in a large enough container that their roots are not going to get cramped at all. We want them to be able to mature as much as they can before getting transplanted in the same container to just ensure that the fruit actually forms. I don't want to pot these up because it's not so much about root disturbance as it is about, I don't want them to sit in this container for too long, or any other container for that matter, because they tend to get root bound. And the Brussels sprouts, if they stay root bound for too long, it won't put out those little Brussels. They're just a little bit sensitive. So I'm gonna make sure that these are just a one and done sowing in a large enough container to support them getting a few sets of their true leaves, and then I'm gonna transplant them outside.
Now, another proven winner for me is definitely gonna be lettuce. Because let's face it, who doesn't like a nice crisp lettuce in a salad? But not just any lettuce. This year we're going with an Astrale, or either Astrale. I've heard it both ways, but it's a butterhead lettuce that has similar growing patterns to like that of a romaine, where it's gonna grow upright, but you still get that buttery crispness that comes from a butterhead lettuce. And now the cool thing about this lettuce is that it grows super fast. I mean, we're talking about 21 to 55 days. So if you're looking for your baby greens, you can definitely get those in those first 21 days. Or if you're looking for a full head, you can get those in your 55. So with that being said, this is one that I highly recommend we do some succession planting or either some staggered planting so you can get the most bang for your buck, so you can get those continual harvests. Now, if you live in a warm climate like myself, you definitely want to wait till temperatures drop down to about 60, 70 degrees before direct sowing, as the warmer temperatures could definitely affect your germination rates as well as cause premature bolting. But you always have the alternative of being able to start indoors until temperature's ideal. Oh, here's another suggestion. Lettuce grows great hydroponically.
One of my favorite cover crops is hairy vetch. I've been growing this for years. In fact, the plants that are surrounding these tomatoes are hairy vetch. These are the plants that I actually started last year, because hairy vetch is winter hardy down to zone 4. And in my Colorado zone 5B garden, it comes back every year. It has among the first flowers in spring, which makes it ideal for pollinators. It spreads across the ground very quickly to help suppress weeds and reduce erosion. And most importantly, it puts nitrogen into the soil, making the soil richer and healthier for next year's crops. I don't have to wait until the bed is empty and bare to start these seeds. I'll start them around these tomato plants and those tomato plants and many of the other plants in the garden. So when my first frost hits next month and kills all these tomato plants, it's no problem. The hairy vetch is here and it will keep growing until the colder days of winter, putting nitrogen into the soil, protecting the soil, and making a gardener like me very happy.
I don't know about you guys, but every time I'm out wandering in my garden, I'm always looking for a little something sweet to snack on. And in the summer, that's usually a tomato or a ground cherry or a blueberry. But in the fall, I always reach for snap peas as a sweet treat. Snap peas are a cool season legume that give you crisp, sweet pods that you can eat whole. So unlike shelling varieties, You don't have to open these up and collect each and every pea. You eat them pod and all right off the vine, and they're so sweet and so delicious. Honestly, it's hard for these to even make it inside the house in my garden. That's how much I love snap peas. And bonus, they're nitrogen fixers, so they're feeding the soil while they grow. And you want to make sure that you're trellising your snap peas. They can be pretty vigorous viners, pretty vigorous growers, so they do need some type of trellis, but this variety from Epic is called Patio Pride, which is a shorter growing variety. So this is perfect for the container gardener, or if you just want to put like a little A-frame trellis in your raised bed, that's what I'm doing. Or you can even use a tomato cage for these. Snap peas love cooler weather, so September is the perfect time to get them in the ground. And when you go to plant, you'll want to plant them about 1 inch in depth and give them about 2 inches apart. And also make sure to give them something to climb, and you'll have delicious snap peas in about 40 to 60 days. Depending on the variety, it's a little different. This Patio Pride variety takes 40 days, so it seems to be a little bit of an earlier variety. And the more you pick of snap peas, the more they'll produce. So keep picking and keep snacking.
So last year, I harvested the biggest head of Napa cabbage that I've ever grown in my life. And this year, I'm doing it again. So in the month of September, I'll be planting Napa cabbage. Starting Napa cabbage seed is going to be like most other brassicas. We're going to sow the seeds about 1/4 inch deep. I like to start them in trays and transplant them out into the garden, especially when we're talking about starting in September. It's just too hot out in my raised beds to direct sow these. I'm going to start them in the shade somewhere a bit more protected. Then I'm going to gradually move them out into the raised bed garden area as things start to cool off around October, when it's time to transplant them out into the garden. This year, I'm going to make sure that I top off my raised beds with some fresh, good quality compost, some nice, good quality organic matter, and I'm going to get my irrigation in place, and then I will transplant out my little seedlings. I want to make sure that I give my Napa cabbages as much care as possible, because now I know that if they really get what they want, they could grow to enormous sizes here in Florida. And we are going to make sure that we weed around these plants carefully and we don't crowd them. If you overcrowd Napa cabbage, the heads will be smaller or they will fail to make heads. You've really got to make sure you space them out so that they can make bigger heads.
Here in Zone 7 in September, cabbage is going to have its second chance on the stage. I am not growing this for the family. I am growing this simply for myself because kraut, baby, it's so good for your gut. So I have this beautiful, beautiful red cabbage that we're sowing. This is Red Acre. And I'm actually gonna direct sow it into my beds now with a little bit of straw mulch on top. These cabbage are so gorgeous. You can even dye with the water because of that purple color. It makes great coleslaw. They're really such a versatile plant. I love to do little cabbage rolls. The color itself makes this such an extraordinary plant to grow because it's just really fun and exciting to harvest.
So the next plant in my September lineup is definitely going to be a classic. That's going to be Swiss chard, but not just any Swiss chard. It's going to be Celebration Swiss chard. Reason being is because I think I've established to you before, I like a nice mix of colors in my garden, especially when we start easing ourselves into the fall and winter and we start getting some of those blues and grays. It's great to have a nice pop of reds and yellows in there to really shake things up a bit. And I mean, this may stem from my love of ornamental plants as well. But I digress. Now, just like with my red leaf amaranth, this is one that I grow all season long because it's so easy to grow and it's really easy to harvest. Plus, again, considering its heat and drought tolerance, this one performs the best between 75 and 90 degrees. Oh, and the cool thing about it is, guess what? You can harvest the full mature leaves, or you can even harvest the baby greens as well. Oh, and on an additional note, when it comes to sowing and germinating your seeds for your Swiss chard, let's take a look at that seed right there. It can be a little challenging for some. So with that being said, I would recommend soaking your seeds for about 2 to 24 hours before sowing to speed up that germination rate.
Lacey Facilia is another cover crop that I grow when other plants are actively growing in the bed, like these cilantro plants that I'm allowing to grow to seed so that I can collect the seed and make coriander. I've harvested a lot of what was in this bed, and what's replacing those plants are weeds. A perfect opportunity to put the Facilia in the bed, cover it, and suppress the weeds. Now, this is a hardy, strong plant. Its deep roots will help break apart dense soil. It helps to sequester nitrates in the soil. It's drought tolerant, and it can be grown up to altitudes of 8,000 feet. Perfect for me in this Colorado garden. I'm at 7,000 feet. This is the kind of plant that I can put in the ground in late summer and not worry too much about. It's going to grow into the fall and give this soil all of its benefits. If I decide to turn it in, it's adding great biomass to the soil. I can keep it in place over the winter. It's hardy down to 19 degrees Fahrenheit. Below that, it's killed. But the leaves of the plant will still cover and protect the soil during the course of the winter. And in spring, I can take that biomass to put in the compost or to put back into the soil.
This leafy green helped Popeye build his famous biceps, and I have been doing a little bit of weightlifting myself recently, so hopefully it helps me too. I love to throw this into smoothies, mix it in my scrambled eggs in the morning, have it in salads. Any guesses? It's spinach. Popeye was a dead giveaway for that one. Spinach is one of the most nutrient-dense leafy greens out there. It's gonna hit you with vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin C, iron, antioxidants. It has it all. And it's one of the only leafy greens in my garden that absolutely thrives all winter long. Like, it will survive multiple frosts, it survived even like deep freezes that we've had here in the South, and it always produces for me all the way into the spring. It has started to rain on me, but I want to tell you about how I plant spinach. So I like to plant my spinach pretty densely. I like to plant it in my elevated salad box. It sits up off the ground, and I really find that that helps with controlling slugs, because it's harder for the slugs to get up into your spinach that way. I like to just throw out the seeds, mix them in the soil with my hand, and then water them well. Spinach does like to stay pretty consistently moist, so make sure that you keep it well watered up until they start to sprout. I prefer to harvest my spinach as baby spinach just because I'm not really fond of the taste of larger leafed spinach, but you can harvest it either baby or larger leaves if you'd like. Just make sure that you're harvesting from the outside in, because the inside will keep growing as you harvest the outer leaves. And I also like to sow my spinach every 2 or 3 weeks throughout the winter, just so that I have a continuous supply all the way up until spring.
This is my newest garden bed, and I'm looking for a ground cover to go with these daylilies. High on the list is Sweet Alyssum. Now, I'm not planting these to improve the soil. Instead, I want a quick burst of color before my first frost date, and I can expect blooms within 6 to 8 weeks from these plants. I'll go ahead and sprinkle a few of these seeds right on top of the mulch. Light benefits germination. So when I water these seeds in, they're going to fall between the pieces of mulch. It's very light, I can see soil, and I can expect the plants to sprout pretty quickly. Now, they're heat tolerant, they're drought tolerant, and they're deer resistant. Perfect for the conditions I have in my garden. They're hardy down to zone 5. So I can expect these new plants that I'm putting in late summer to pop up in early spring. They can get a little bit leggy in the second year, but I'm okay with that because I've got more seeds, and I'll continue to spread these plants in all these new bare garden beds that I've just finished.
My next crop is one that we've had so much success growing that we've had to donate a lot of it to a local community organization that we love to support, so much so that Paul on our team, when he goes to drop them off, they just call him the beet guy. And of course, that's my pick. It's going to be beets, golden or red. So we have a couple varieties that I'd recommend, at least for beginners. So for true beginners, Ruby Queen beet from the Epic line is probably the easiest. It's the most classic. You can do the most with it in the kitchen. But these days, I've really enjoyed growing golden beets. There's Touchstone Gold, but Golden Boy is the one that I personally prefer, at least for my climate. I just love the sweetness of a beet in general, but I specifically love the look and the sweetness, especially when roasted, of a golden beet. It's very wild that you can actually eat a root crop that looks this yellow. It's got to be something in those nutrients that makes you feel absolutely amazing. But let's talk now about how to start them, because it's a little different than most crops. So just to be clear, you can start beads in a seed starting tray. We've done it a million times. It works perfectly fine. But if there ever was a crop that's great for direct sowing, beets would be it. And there's a lot of reasons why. Number one, it's a pretty big seed, but number two, it's what's called a compound seed. So all these individual seeds aren't actually seeds. There's more than one beet seed within. So what you can do is come down, clear out a little space in your yard, and make a depression in the soil, maybe about ½ an inch deep or so, and actually just put one beet seed in, just like that, because you should get 2 or 3 sprouts out of this one. Then what I would do is I'd space them about 4 to 6 inches apart. So you kind of do this triangular spacing, like boom, 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 and you'll have 2 or 3 sprout out in each, and then you'll let these grow up and harvest off as you go. It's called multi-sowing. Charles Dowding has talked about it a lot. You get a lot more yield out of your space by doing it that way. And if you do succeed with a crop this year, I highly recommend you try out a roasted beet salad recipe. We'll probably put that down in the comments as well. If you want a full guide on growing beets, one of my favorite crops, weirdly enough, I used to hate it as a kid, you can check out our guide right here. We'll see you next time. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.